Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Camarilla Cafe. I am your host, Louis LaRocco, and I believe this is episode 14. We were just talking about it a moment ago. I am joined by the wonderful co-host, Chris Bonica, and our other becoming consistent co-host here, Mundane Marauder, who runs a Twitch channel and everything else. How you doing, guys?
Good, man. It's Monday.
Doing good.
Don't we usually do this on a Friday?
Yes. So, yeah, I guess we should explain that, right? So, we're changing our schedule a bit. Not to say that we're never going to do a Friday again, but it looks like we will start doing Mondays. Hopefully at approximately this time. Maybe slightly earlier, maybe slightly later. I'm not too sure, but we're working on it right now. We're all actually kind of in sync schedule-wise finally, huh?
Kinda, yeah.
Just about.
So we might be shifting over to Monday to bring all of this lovely information to all of you lovely people. And how was your guys' vacation? How are your holidays? That's why we've been gone, by the way, since I know our show kind of comes and goes. How's your holiday, Chris?
It's been fine. Seeing family was good. And eating. My favorite part is the eating, obviously. And
No.
yeah, I mean that's basically it. Pretty much everyone's got COVID, which is also, great and hallelujah. But
You know that the CDC made an announcement that they were doing a new PCR test because the previous PCR test couldn't tell the difference between the flu and the other thing that starts with a C. So starting January 1st, yes. Mm-hmm. It's on the CDC website. How was your vacation, Mundane?
It was good. I pretty much just everything that we did holiday wise was at my house. So
At your new house.
Yeah, new house. So
That
I
you
didn't have
built.
to really go anywhere, which was great. Pretty much just sat around and ate food.
I think that that's something that I actually want to point out to listeners of the show, because I know we come across as very anti-establishment, very anti-everything. We cover a lot of conspiracies. So Mundane built his house, which is actually quite impressive.
I put a lamp in my office. Didn't have to be dark and dingy.
Oh my God! Look at your hair.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
I like it. But yeah, so
he's looking 80s.
So did you start from scratch? You just had the land, right?
I had the land sort of started from scratch, you could say. I mean, the shell of the house is pre-built, but everything inside and the porch that I've added onto it was all done by hand.
And you're pretty much expanding it too, right?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is eventually get another building to put back behind this one, and then put like a private area between the two that has like a porch and a little yard area.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is going to be bedroom, office, and bathroom. And then the other one you're going to walk through and it's going to have a little bedroom and a half bath and then a living room area.
Wow. So what gave you the idea to do that? Like, because I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are into like kind of the off the grid living or the DIY, because a lot of people kind of want to distance themselves from the current setups of how to purchase and mortgage loans and everything like that. Like, how hard was it for you to actually like do this?
It wasn't that difficult. I have a little bit of a background in electrical and plumbing though, so that made it a little easier when running everything on the inside. One of the biggest things is the property is already owned, so I didn't have to and because it's considered a portable building, the county never really had to come out and do inspections or anything like that.
Really?
Yeah. So everything is just done. I mean, I have everything that I've put in, I've done up to code, so that I don't have to worry about it breaking or starting a fire or any stupid stuff like that later down the road.
But theoretically, you didn't have to do it to code. Not that you shouldn't do it to code, because code is obviously for safety purposes and other reasons, but you technically didn't have to go by code if you didn't feel as though you needed to.
No, did not have to go by code.
Wow. Yeah, we should do an episode on that one of these days. I have a ton of questions on how you did that. Not that I'm in any position to do it myself at any point, anytime soon. But like I said, I'm sure a lot of our listeners would actually be quite interested in hearing what you did, how you did it, what you're doing. Yeah, for anyone who's looking to be off the grid. But yes, procuring the land, I would imagine, is the most important part of it. But once you have the land,
Yeah, once you have the land, you can kind of, like I said, if you're not building like a, have to have them come pour a foundation and all of that stuff to where you have to have the county come out and inspect everything, then it's pretty easy. You kind of just literally threw it together
wow,
because it's not even finished at this point. So
congratulations again, man. And we have we're also accompanied by Trinity, who says Mundane didn't do it himself. Cough, cough. So I would imagine that means that you did practically didn't do any of this. I should be interviewing her.
yeah, I guess you could say that. Sure.
No. But I mean, regardless, even if she built the entire thing, you grew that hair, which is quite incredible.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's been cut like 2 times since it's been this long.
That looks amazing. So, anyways, so we've been covering a lot of like paganism, the history of paganism, trying to go back as far as we could, as far as like religion is concerned, as far as our written records, I guess, written records or spoken by mouth records, right? Because there are a lot of theories that humanity's been around a lot longer than we have any idea it has, right? But as far as our communicated history, we kind of tried to go as far back as we could. And we found that like for thousands and thousands of years, paganism was kind of the religion of the world. We covered all the way through up until basically the Crusades. I think the last thing we left on was the Jesuits, which the new Pope is obviously the first Jesuit Pope in history. I don't know if we really have to cover the Jesuits at all at this point, but something we should cover, and let me bring this over right now. There we go. I have to ease into this, guys. Like, took a little while to set up. I was rusty. You know what I mean? So here we got the Knights Templar. So, and this says the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. So pretty much right as Catholicism started taking over, then obviously most people learn in school about the Crusades. So that seems to be something that's covered across the board, especially because it seems as though people kind of aren't happy with the Catholic Church of recent years. And they seem to be pretty available for scrutiny of late. I know we can't really scrutinize a couple of other religions. They seem to be off the table. Christianity does not seem to be off the table recently. So it says, also known as the Order of Solomon's Temple, the Knights Templar, or simply Templars, was a Catholic military order founded in 1118 and were headquartered on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem through 1128 when they went to meet with Pope Honorius. How do you pronounce that? I've been having a major problem pronouncing things recently. The second. So pretty much then, I guess, so this was kind of like the military of the Catholic Church, the Knights Templar. Am I wrong or right?
Well, originally they were like warrior monks, and they were supposed to be helping the pilgrims migrate over to Jerusalem. But in doing that, a hell of a lot more happened after their formation. So,
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they were they became popular, all throughout Europe. They gained a lot of fame and wealth, mainly through donations. Popes kept on giving them, decreeing certain rights to the point where they weren't paying taxes anymore to any king or queen or anybody. So all their wealth was kept. They were lending money to kings and queens. That's how rich they had become. They even started the first real banking system, right? They started.
I was about to ask that question.
Yeah, they started the first checking system. So it's kind of like almost like you would take money out of a bank and then you would pay it back.
I mean, let's
Really?
be honest. If I didn't have to pay taxes, I'd be a lot richer than I am right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
But,
that's a big thing even in modern society. A lot of people scrutinize is the fact that religions, if a place is considered a house of the holy, let's say, or a house of belief, they basically skip out on taxes altogether. And they become tax-free organizations where everything they purchase is a business purchase in the name of religion, and that goes tax-free as well, tax exemptions with everything. So
Right.
I guess is that where it started?
possibly.
See, you used a key word there that it doesn't matter what church or any type of nonprofit or religious foundation is going to use, which is business, even though that's what they are. So, because I mean, business pays taxes.
Right. So you're pretty much relating religion to business.
Well, no, that was your exact word, was any business purchases that they, make are for religious reasons and then no longer taxable. But anytime, if you asked any of them, they would never say that they're a business.
Oh no. They'd say I specifically remember I used to work at the Sam Ash in Brooklyn, New York, and I remember a lot of the pastors used to come in to buy like instruments for the band at the church, and they used to say, first off they'd say, "Can I get it cheaper for Jesus? Do it for Jesus." But then every time they'd pull out a tax exemption form, and they'd have the forms up to date. Like if they had anything, they had the forms ready, and they were consistently tax exempt. They almost refused to pay full price. It was rough, and it gets difficult to discern. A lot of the time, it was difficult to discern whether they were buying it for Jesus or they were buying it for themselves. So I don't work there anymore, so I can actually say
Probably
that
50-50.
it might be 70-30, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, how much equipment does the church need?
Jesus needs a lot of equipment.
Really?
I mean, let's be honest. If you're that high up in the church, if you buy something for the church, it's basically yours anyways.
Yeah, I guess. And how you doing over there, William Coulard's joining us. He's on Facebook with us. He said, "I learned about the Crusades from Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman. I don't know what movie that is, but I guess there was one about the Crusades with them. I want to learn about when the Knights Templar became the go-to design for video game paladins." And he said, "I remember when there was a huge party at the church across the street from your apartment in Flatlands, and it looked way better than the party we were at." That was, I don't even think that could be considered a church. That place across the street was like the size of a bodega. I don't know how they even rammed anybody in there. And then he said, "Fucking Robin Hood, you clown."
That's the movie he's talking about.
We are also joined by I Am Not You on Twitch. And he says houses of worship are considered non-profit, part of what exempts them from taxes. It doesn't exempt them from Mercedes and many other
No.
extravagant, expensive things for Jesus.
Let's just put it all out there. Non-profit, they're still making profit.
Oh, of
They
course.
have to pay people somehow.
Oh, of course they have to. They're paying somebody. I mean, that works with everything. There are some people who are 24/7 devoted to nonprofits. How do you do that? Unless you were born rich, there's no way to actually function in society without a second job. So I've never looked into nonprofit, although maybe I should. Maybe we should become a nonprofit if it's that profitable. And
We'll just buy everything through Camarilla Cafe. Call it nonprofit.
yep, that's right. Well, you established us as a holy order, didn't you?
That's right. All we have to do is call it a church.
The Church of Camarilla. That's it. Oh, and then I said I was going to bless you.
There's a lot of churches, though, that only even have websites. They don't even have physical locations. So you don't even actually have to have an address to become a nonprofit or a religious organization when it comes to the government.
Right. And basically, it's a scam. The whole thing. Okay. Anyways. And I Am Not You said, what organization is run legitimately? That's another good point. But I don't know, from a moral standpoint, looking at it from morality kind of direction, it seems to me way more disingenuous to use Jesus as something to enrich yourself by, rather than just creating another scummy corporation. 90% of people understand that corporations are scummy, but at least they're there to, most of the times, do what they're going to do. Then they have the board of directors, and everybody understands how that works. The churches, on the other hand, that is thievery in a sense. I mean, you could look at it that way. I'm sure there's a couple of churches that are legitimate, that attempt to do the right thing. I doubt the bulk of them do. Then William says, if anyone needs proof of your devotion, they need only look to the Jesus piece you've had on since 1985. So I wear this for other reasons. I'm sure we'll hit that in an episode. I'll explain why I wear this, but no, I do not consider myself, I was raised Roman Catholic. I do not consider myself a Catholic. I'm certainly not practicing. And I am not used as sure, but the point still holds. I don't think that had to do with the cross. I think his point is that it's a little schemier if I think you go through religion to do it. Anyways, so we will continue here. So let's see. So yes, the Templars were obviously became a favored charity through Christendom and grew rapidly in membership and power. Templar Knights, in their distinctive white mantles with a red cross, were amongst the most skilled fighting units of the Crusades. They were prominent in Christian finance. It's funny that you mentioned that. Non-combatant members of the order who made up as much as 90% of their members. So, okay. So 90% of the members were non-combatant. So they were prominent in Christian finance, and they managed a large economic infrastructure throughout Christendom. They developed innovative financial techniques that were an early form of banking, building its own network of nearly 1,000 commanderies and fortifications across Europe and the Holy Land, and arguably forming the world's first multinational corporation. So not only did they bring Christianity to everywhere, they practically brought banking. And the Red Cross is, what is that? That's the United States' biggest emergency, like ambulance company, right? Emergency medical.
I think, yeah. I don't know if they have ambulances. I've never seen a Red Cross ambulance.
Yeah, look that up real quick. Well, let's just define the Red Cross. But obviously the Red Cross is very big.
I thought that had to do with military, the Red Cross. I know there's the Red Cross that go out to impoverished places or places that need help. And you know, that's the American Red Cross. And, you know, you'll also see the Red Cross on like the medics in the Army.
Yes.
You know, their bases will have a Red Cross, but
so it just says the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement is an international humanitarian movement with approximately 97 million volunteers, members, and staff worldwide, which was founded to protect human life and health, to ensure respect for all human beings, and to prevent and alleviate human suffering.
That's good. And I Am Not You also mentions that he says that I was raised Christian. I don't know about that. He says the Red Cross is international crisis relief. And then he said the Red Cross logo is no accident, by the way. And we have on Facebook here. What?
I was reading Couillard's comment.
Oh, yeah, he's an asshole. Trinity says I was raised Roman Catholic, too. I didn't know that about you. And then Billy writes, Red Cross are vampires. I know because they're always emailing me asking for my blood. I got that magic donate to anybody blood. So yeah, so okay, so pretty much, from what I'm getting from this article, the Knights Templar kind of established the culture and system of the West, is what I'm getting from this article. Because pretty much when anybody picks on capitalism or the United States in general, which by the way it is a Catholic country, we're based off of Catholic Christian beliefs, right? It looks like they set up pretty much everything that was here in the West. I mean, banking. this is what we hear about when we talk about world wars and stuff like that, about how the banking systems are setting themselves up in other countries, and they're procuring more land, procuring more control over things. Obviously, the Red Cross, which is the International Crisis Relief. So they started a lot of things that were end the world's first multinational corporation.
No. It's a multinational nonprofit organization.
Right.
No. I didn't realize where you were going with that at first. So it says the Templars were closely tied to the Crusades. When the Holy Land was lost, support for the order faded. Rumors about the Templars' secret initiation ceremony created distrust. And King Philip, is that the sixth of France, while being deeply in debt to the order, took advantage of this distrust to destroy them to erase his debt. On Friday the 13th of October 1307, he had many of the order's members in France arrested, tortured into giving false confessions, and burned them at the stake. Pope Clement V disbanded the order in 1312 under pressure from King Philip. The abrupt reduction in power of a significant group in European society gave rise to speculation, legend, myth, and legacy through the ages. Yeah, I also noticed as far as myth, Friday the 13th of October. So he tortured,
right?
And then burned them at the stake. So that seems like a nice
Can you imagine
thing.
that the Pope, not the Pope, but the French king owed so much money that he created this whole shit just so that he didn't have to pay them back? And
Well,
pretty much ended the order.
I mean, as far as what we're reading, he did. Because obviously we know where this is going to segue. This is going to segue to a place that you couldn't wait to get to.
Well,
because you mentioned it so many times covering this.
I never mentioned it once. So, no, I mean, there were survivors. It wasn't like, all of them were killed. I think a lot of them were allowed to go to, I keep on forgetting their names. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The Hospitallers, which is another order. They're the Knights of Hospitallers. They go by 100 different names. The Knights of Malta, the Order of Malta. Anyway, it's another group of knights founded by the Pope, and they also go and help people, impoverished people and whatnot. And a lot of the Templars who were not in France wound up going and becoming a part of this order instead. So who knows where else they migrated to and became.
And if you scroll down to arrest charges and dissolution on that page, it talks about the Hospitallers.
Oh, it does?
It
Okay.
does.
So you're saying they would go to impoverished places and help, almost like Bill Gates in Africa.
Exactly.
So you said go to arrests, charges, and dissolution?
Yeah. It's within the first sentence.
In 1305, the new Pope Clement V, based in Avignon, France, sent letters to both the Templar Grand Master Jacques de Molay and the Hospitaller Grand Master Fouque de Villers, what the Fouque, to discuss the possibility of merging the two orders. Neither was amenable to the idea, but Pope Clement persisted, and in 1306 he invited both Grand Masters to France to discuss the matter. De Molay arrived first in early 1307, but de Villers was delayed for several months. While waiting, come on, let's get to the end here. The ministers, it was generally agreed that the charges were false, but Clement sent the king a written request for assistance in the investigation. According to some historians, King Philip, who was already deeply in debt to the Templars from his war against England, decided to seize upon the rumors for his own purposes. He began pressuring the church to take action against the order as a way of freeing himself from his debts. At dawn on Friday the 13th, October 1307, a date sometimes incorrectly linked with the origin of the Friday the 13th superstition. So this says it's incorrectly linked, but that's some incorrect linking there. Like Friday the 13th of October. and that this is incorrectly linked to it. King Philip ordered de Molay and scores of other French Templars to be simultaneously arrested. The arrest warrant stated with the words, Dieu n'est pas content. I don't fucking know how to read that. So we're going to skip that. So let's see what they were charged on. Claims were made that during Templar admission ceremonies, this is going to be very important going forward. Claims were made that during Templar admission ceremonies, recruits were forced to spit on the cross, deny Christ, and engage in indecent kissing. Brethren were also accused of worshipping idols, and the order was said to have encouraged homosexual practices. These allegations, though, were highly politicized without any real evidence. Still, the Templars were charged with numerous other offenses such as financial corruption, fraud, and secrecy. Many of the accused confessed to these charges under torture, even though the Templars denied being tortured in their written confessions, and their confessions, even though obtained under duress, caused a scandal in Paris. So, I think that's very important to distinguish, right? Because, or something to point out, not to distinguish, but so we spoke about how the entire world was pagan until this whole entire uprising of Christianity happened. And then it leads into the Knights Templar, which start going everywhere and establishing all of these different orders, right? Now, if you're looking at the stuff that I just read, you're seeing accusations that would be of old practices, right? So like a lot of that would be of Sodom and Gomorrah, the paganism of the worshiping of idols, indecent kissing. I don't know about that, but spitting on the cross would obviously be against the religion, right? So again, this would seem as though a lot of people kind of hid in these groups to get away from the persecution, if there was any truth to this being accurate, right? Because these accusations seem to be kind of continuous in history when you talk about these groups. No?
Sorry, there was something I had read the other day, and I can't find it for the life of me. But after they had burned pretty much everybody at the stake, in the cell where the Templars were locked up, they one had drew Venus on the wall, and the other one had drawn the symbol of, I believe it was Helena, but I could be wrong.
That was in the
definitely a
cell
Greek
that they were
goddess.
held in.
Yes, it was one of the Greek goddesses. I
Really?
want to say it was Helena. Yes, for the life of me, I don't remember where I read that.
Well, it says again, even in this article right here, the Templars were accused of idolatry and were suspected of worshiping either a figure known as Baphomet or a mummified severed head they recovered, amongst other artifacts, at their original headquarters on the Temple Mount that many scholars theorize might have been that of John the Baptist, amongst other things. So they're being accused. I mean, at that time, that's who they're going after, right? It is pretty much the pagans. They're trying to change the entire world into pretty much what precursored us. It is what it seems. So
Yes, it seems like they were trying to do a whole cleansing.
Yeah. So
Rewrite history.
I Am Not You also says that yes, that is where the Friday the 13th superstition started. King Philip claimed the Templars worship Baphomet, which they probably did anyway, and said Wiki is completely incorrect about the link between Friday the 13th and the Templars. Yes, I believe that as well. I think that they provide a lot of disconnects along these stories that would kind of not lead you to find one thing from searching another. So by unlinking that, people wouldn't see this in history if it were just some random superstition. You get what I'm saying? Whereas that would be some crazy coincidence to turn that into kind of like a horror superstition. Friday the 13th, like of October. Like the timing is just, that's really some coincidence. And then they're getting accused of pretty much what the pagans were accused of. And, some of what we hear these days. So I think with this, we'll look right now where it says so that was the downfall, was just what happened in Paris, was the decline of it. Is that where they considered
Yes,
it to be over?
pretty much. So like in I think it's 1314 or 1318 was like when the whole order was completely disbanded, and the Knights Templar either had to go into a different order or fled or did something. The funny thing is, I know we're going to talk about them in a second. The Freemasons, the first, the first known like the first evidence we have of Freemasonry is like in the late 1300s. So not that long after.
No, not at all. Now I would imagine. See, because to say that the entire organization of the Knights Templar crumbled because of an accusation in Paris, while these guys are pretty much taking over everywhere they're going. They're establishing a banking system. We're going to get into the Freemasons in a second, because the article already stated that 90% of them were not the military aspect of it. 90% of them were other things. So let's see a little here. In the mid 12th century, the tide began to turn in the Crusades. The Islamic world had become more united under effective leaders such as Saladin. Dissension arose among Christian factions in and concerning the Holy Land. The Knights Templar were occasionally at odds with two other Christian military orders, the Knights Hospitaller and the Teutonic Knights. And I've heard of them. It says the Order of the Brothers of the German House of St. Mary in Jerusalem, commonly known as the Teutonic Order, is a Catholic religious order founded as a military order in the Kingdom of Jerusalem. So that's another group. Let's see right here. Same thing for the Order of the Knights of the Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, commonly known as the Knights Hospitaller, was a medieval and early modern Catholic military order. I mean, they had a few different groups running around here, and decades of internecine feuds weakening Christian positions both politically and militarily. After the Templars were involved in several unsuccessful campaigns, including the pivotal Battle of Hattin, Jerusalem was recaptured by Muslim forces under Saladin in 1787. I said 1187. Sorry for that.
I was going to say he lived a long time.
Oh yeah. That was a big mistake. So that kind of gets into where Jerusalem went. So something that I noticed right here, when you turn up in the page, it has legacy, right? And then it has modern organizations. So you got the Templari Cattolici d'Italia. So I guess that's the Temple of Catholicism in Italy. The Order of Christ, the Temperance Movement, self-styled orders. And then you have Freemasonry. So now this is going to go into what I was pointing out before, that 90% of the Knights Templar actually weren't the soldiers. So we're going to go into Freemasonry. And it says right here, Freemasonry has incorporated the symbols and rituals of several medieval military orders in a number of Masonic bodies since at least the 18th century. This can be seen in the Red Cross of Constantine, inspired by the military Constantinian order, the Order of Malta, inspired by the Knights Hospitalier, and the Order of the Temple, inspired by the Knights Templar. The Orders of Malta and the Temple feature prominently in the York Rite. One theory on the origin of Freemasonry claims direct descent from the historical Knights Templar through its final 14th century members who were thought to have taken refuge in Scotland and aided Robert the Bruce in his victory at Bannockburn. This theory is usually rejected by both Masonic authorities, of course, and historians due to a lack of evidence. So even Wikipedia is kind of drawing the connection here between the Templar and Freemasonry.
Yeah, funny enough, some things when I was doing research on this, people were like, "Oh, it might sound like the Freemasons came from the Templars, but there's no evidence to back that." And I'm just like, I think you're just trying not to look at it in a certain light, because I think it's clear that one comes from the other. Maybe they weren't wielding axes, or swords, but that wasn't really the point of the Freemasons, right? Like you said, only 10% of the Knights Templar were of the militant order. The rest
Mm-hmm.
were, you know, the rest were probably your bankers and your businessmen and other entrepreneurs and who knows what. You know, they were probably into politics and everything else, noblemen. So, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems even in the article in Wikipedia, it seems as though all three kind of crusade groups all blended into this one group, right? So I brought up the Encyclopedia Britannica, which who knows how accurate it's going to be, but at least it's not crowdsourced as Wikipedia is. So basically, it right off the bat, it states secret organization, which I don't know how secret that is, but secret organization. It says Freemasonry, the teachings and the practices of the fraternal, men only, order of free and accepted Masons, the largest worldwide secret society, an oath-bound society often devoted to fellowship, moral discipline, and mutual assistance that conceals at least some of its rituals, customs, or activities from the public. Secret societies do not necessarily conceal their membership or existence. Spread by the advance of the British Empire, Freemasonry remains most popular in the British Isles and in other countries originally within the empire. Estimates of the worldwide membership of Freemasonry in the early 21st century ranged from about 2 million to more than 6 million. So here's where this comes in. Freemasonry evolved from the guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders of the Middle Ages, right? So if 90% of the Knights Templar were the actual warriors, were the soldiers, and then they're coming in and they're setting up a banking system. They're obviously also building churches and putting down the foundation of the society that's taking over the land, right? These would be the stonemasons and the cathedral builders. These would be the people that are actually creating the image of the empire. So you could quite easily kind of link the two with each other. I don't know if I'm actually making a good point there or I'm not.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, and they were the builders of a lot of these buildings and stuff, we've known or have figured out over time that a lot of these buildings that the Knights Templar built or had built have stuff underneath them that nobody knew about until well after they had fallen or declined or whatever you want to call it. And it's funny because even on the Wikipedia page, it goes on to say under Freemasonry that under modern popular culture, that Masonic writers added their own speculations to the legends concerning secrets and mysteries of the Knights Templar.
Really?
So why would they speculate if they have nothing to do with it and don't know anything about it?
Right. I mean, they're obviously not going to say this group that just got persecuted into out of existence. You know, they're not going to say, yeah, we're connected with those guys, especially after what they were accused of, which is funny because it turns out they're very similar to what the Freemasons were accused of. But very quickly, Billy wrote, this would be a lot more awesome if we had some of those god-awful reenactments from the British dude from last time. You think the dude's kissed in front of the mummy head and then wrote secret. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, you can't commit all those other sins without a decent orgy going on.
Right. You need the orgy.
You need that butt play. Yeah.
And I am not used as they are also built in geometric patterns and aligned with ley lines. You're talking about the churches and the cathedrals, correct? I just want to make sure I know what he's speaking of. But again, this would fit directly in. So the military would come in, then they'd start saying what they need to build, what institutions, and the Masons would pretty much go and start building that. So it would be one giant army. It's practically the same exact entity because the Freemasons were known to be Catholics, and they were around the times of the Crusades. So let's see right here. So Freemasonry evolved from the guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders of the Middle Ages. With the decline of cathedral buildings, some lodges of operative working masons began to accept honorary members to bolster their declining membership. So they may have been declining at the same exact time that the Crusades, that the Knights Templar were. So it says, from a few of these lodges developed modern symbolic or speculative Freemasonry, which particularly in the 17th and 18th centuries adopted the rites and trappings of ancient religious orders and of chivalric brotherhoods. In 1717, the first Grand Lodge, an association of lodges, was founded in England. So it also says Freemasonry has, almost from its inception, accidentally, encountered considerable opposition from organized religion, especially from the Roman Catholic Church and from various states. Freemasonry is not a Christian institution, though it has often been mistaken for such. Maybe I'm wrong, but every Freemason thing I've ever seen had a cross. Freemasonry contains many elements of a religion. Teachings enjoin morality, charity, and obedience to the law of the land. In most traditions, the applicant for admission is required to be an adult male, and all applicants must also believe in the existence of a supreme being and in the immortality of the soul. In practice, some lodges have been charged with prejudice against Jews, Catholics, and non-whites. Generally, Freemasonry in Latin countries has attracted those who question religious dogma or who oppose the clergy, whereas in the Anglo-Saxon countries, the membership is drawn largely from among white Protestants. The modern French tradition, founded in the 19th century and known as Co-Freemasonry or Le Droit Humain, admits both women and men. So this is saying that the church was separating itself from them, correct?
Well, I don't know if it's from them. I had looked up that same answer. Is it a religion? And I had found this answer. And it says it's not a religion. It's a secular movement. Although the members are expected to acknowledge a belief in a godlike superior being, often called the grand or grand architect of the universe. Anyone believing in a single deity may be admitted. Kipling was a member of the Masonic Lodge in Lahore, wrote a number of poems about his fellow Masons who were Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, and Jews. In theory, all discussion of religion and politics is prohibited within lodges. So, right. So we're kind of going back now to the Romans, when they were just pulling in all different kinds of religions to form their religion, right?
Mm-hmm. They're kind of filling in anyone who's running from the mainstream.
Right.
Is basically what they're doing.
I mean, you could say it's a form of acceptance, right? So like no one should be counted out and everyone is accepted in the group, which is, I mean, that's a nice thing. Sure. You know?
Yeah, I guess that's what's happening now.
Okay. I got no real issue with that. Yeah, it seems like because I saw an answer like that in a few different places I looked. So this was one of the clearest ones.
So now here, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I wouldn't call it a religion, although I would call it. I had it in my head and I lost it.
A spirituality group.
Yes, something more along those lines.
Okay. Kind of like a cult.
You could call anything a cult.
Yes, theoretically, yes. And I am not. You also added after he mentioned that they were built in geometric patterns in line with ley lines. He said no. The layout of London and Washington D.C. form geometric patterns. Yes, I believe D.C. is laid out in a hexagram. Might be another pattern though. And then he says the surface of the Masons is not particularly religious, like the clowns and the Knights of Columbus. The real order of Freemasonry is highly religious, which I've speculated. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it is, or would have been. So I have another article here from livescience.com. And yes, I am not. You said, sorry, Chris is right. It's a pentagram, which doesn't surprise me. And it's got a ton of pizzerias from what I understand too. When did Freemasonry start? What are you laughing at, Chris?
Nothing. I love pizza.
They like pizza. They like pizza in DC. When did Freemasonry start? So this says the origins of Freemasonry are obscure. and the subject is rife with myth, and speculation. One of the more fanciful claims is that the Freemasons are descended from the builders of Solomon's Temple, also known as the First Temple in Jerusalem, according to Jacob. So that would obviously be around the time of the Knights Templar, blatantly around the same time. Others have argued that the Freemasons began as an offshoot of the Knights Templar, a Catholic military order dating to medieval times. And the famous American revolutionary Thomas Paine attempted to trace the origins of the order to the ancient Egyptians and Celtic Druids. There has also been a long-standing rumor that Freemasons are the same as the Illuminati, an 18th century secret society that began in Germany, Jacob wrote. Most of these theories have been debunked, though some people continue to believe them. Freemasonry has its origins in the stonemason guilds of medieval Europe, Jacob told Life Science. These guilds, especially active during the 14th century, were responsible for constructing some of the finest architecture in Europe, such as the ornate Gothic cathedrals of Notre Dame in Paris and the Westminster Abbey in London. So, like many artisan craft guilds of that time, its members jealously guarded their secrets and were selective about who they chose as apprentices. Initiation for new members required a long period of training during which they learned the craft and were often taught advanced mathematics and architecture. Their skills were in such high demand that experienced Freemasons were frequently sought out by monarchs or high-ranking church officials. So they obviously have some hooks in numerous places if they're being requested by high-ranking officials, monarchs. They've got an audience, in other words. So let's see. And now it actually has an explanation. However, with the rise of capitalism and the market economy during the 16th and 17th centuries, the old guild system broke down, but the Masonic lodges survived. In order to bolster membership and raise funds, the stonemason guilds began to recruit non-Masons. At first, the new recruits were often relatives of existing members, but they increasingly included wealthy individuals and men of high social status. And this is saying in the 16th and 17th generations. So now the thing that I'm wondering, and I have to be honest, I didn't plan this article, but why would they be linked to the ancient Egyptians? Now I understand why the Druids, because we're talking about how they're running into hiding, because we used to be pagans, and a lot of these groups went into hiding so that they dodged persecution, which is exactly what they got accused of by the king of Paris that killed them, king of France. Why would they even be brought that far back to the ancient Egyptians?
So when you talk about masonry, no one had done it better than them. So there were some things I read that said it could go back to as far as Euclid, which is like 300 BC in Egypt. Um, uh, and I don't know. There wasn't much. There wasn't much that I could find that really went back that far. But yeah, there was. Uh, that was basically all I found.
Yeah, and let's see. And I Am Not You also says you read it before I could type it. The Masons have been speculated to have originated in Egypt. And William Coulard said DC probably has awful pizza. Most popular topping is violent crime. No, most popular topic is probably children. I Am Not You also says it could even be speculated that they date to pre-dynastic Egypt, as many scholars have theorized the Great Pyramid and Sphinx are pre-dynastic. So obviously, this article's bringing them all the way to the 16th, 17th, and even late 18th century, right? And it's saying that a lot of very, very prominent people started joining the Freemasons
So
at a certain point.
Chris did just bring up, I do believe he said the Euclids.
Yes.
So the 47th proposition of Euclid is a very common thing used by Freemasons. It's basically Pythagorean's theorem, and it's the Freemasons use it or say they use it because it's how you square your square is Pythagorean theorem. But the 47th proposition of Euclid shows up in a lot of Freemason text and photos and books and buildings.
So now what is the what is the thing behind the use of that?
So they say they use it because that's where Pythagorean's theorem came from, and that's how you square your square.
Right, but what would be the significance of them using that in general?
So it's one of the symbols that they throw into a lot of stuff. It's said that they throw it into a lot of their text and books and just buildings and stuff like that, because to a simple person, it just looks like a bunch of weird lines, which I'm about to send it over to you, so that you can see what it looks like. Basically, they're like, oh, it just looks like a bunch of lines, but they use it in a lot of their buildings because to other Freemasons, it identifies somewhere that Freemasonry is respected, or they can go in and be welcomed and known.
Right. And Euclid it's a person, Euclid of Alexandria. He was a Greek mathematician.
So now that's the image.
That is the 47th proposition of Euclid.
The 47th proposition.
Right.
And then they say that it's not only a way to remind yourself to keep your life in order, but it's also a handy way to lay a geometrically accurate cornerstone.
So if I stare at this, my life will become ordered?
Yeah, it's to remind you to keep yourself in order.
How am I to... So this is just a reminder.
Yeah, it's
like
a
this is better than leaving a note
together.
that says, hey, shithead, keep your stuff in order.
Yeah, pretty much. Get your shit together.
So is it supposed to be like... Do they state that there's some type of religious symbolism to this so that it subconsciously does something to your mind? Like, is there... Like, you could draw a happy face that says, hey, asshole, get your shit together. Like, what is it about this symbol? Is there any religious context to this symbol? Is there any type of...
So from where I have found it and seen it, there isn't any type of religious use of the symbol that I can find in Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm.
They mostly use it as like a symbol that the common person would not be able to like look at it and be like, oh, I know what that is, to mark where Freemasons are welcome.
Right. So they would know exactly what that is. They'd see it immediately and know.
Yeah. It's also a symbol that some of the buildings that were built back in the time period of Knights Templar have used, is they would lay stones down in that shape to set their cornerstone. And there's a couple of buildings that it said it was never removed. So you can still see it. Like if you were to take the building down, there would still be the 47th proposition of Euclid.
And where would that be? On the foundation?
Yeah, in the foundation. And one of the places that it says that you can find that is Solomon's Temple, which then became, what was the name of it?
Is it the layout or the flooring?
It's like how you set your cornerstone. So it's where you start your foundation from.
So they're in that exact shape. Like you would be able to walk down the hallway and identify that you're kind of in that.
Yeah, like if you're outside the building, you can see them protruding from the corners.
Yep, that's what I thought. It would be like a cornerstone, right?
Yeah.
The foundation. Yeah.
And then another thing that ties in is in every Masonic lodge, there's the pillars of Bose and Jacquin, which is the two pillars that stood in front of Solomon's Temple. And Solomon's Temple is the one that was handed down to the Knights Templar for use. It was like their main headquarters. I can't remember what they called it.
Really?
See, it was up here somewhere.
And I Am Not You also threw in kind of like those owls on the churches. Right, Chris?
Sounds about right.
I mean, the owl represents something completely different.
It's a little different
in this context. Now, something else that I noticed in the article. Let me bring this article up one more time. So there is a section. I don't know how that got in there. Let's see. So this is very interesting because we should start leading into this very slowly. So it says right here, Freemasonry wasn't always welcomed, however. In the United States, in the 1830s, which is kind of late, a political party known as the Anti-Masonic Party formed, the Washington Post reported. It was the nation's original third political party, and its members were dedicated to countering what they believed was Freemasonry's undue political influence. William Seward, who went on to become President Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, began his political career as an anti-Masonic candidate. So we're talking about this group that may have been an offshoot of another group that started all of the Crusades, that this group's designs, knowledge, whatever, can actually go pre-dynastic to Egypt. And now we're fast forwarding all the way to the 1830s, in which a political party was formed because they were worried. They wanted to counter Freemasonry's undue political influence, which is a little odd. I don't know if we should get to part of the list yet, or if we should dig a little further into what they're known for. Very quickly, I am not used as the pillars of Jachin and Boaz also are displayed on the High Priestess card in a tarot deck. One of the connotations of the High Priestess is hidden knowledge. Coincidentally, tarotists also believe the tarot has its origins in Egypt. So Chris, I'll give you the option. Do you want to start getting into the list here? As far as current times, recently current times, people who are linked?
I think we could. I think people would be interested in that.
Okay.
Who are Freemasons? Who are, you know.
So now I just want to make sure we are connecting, in a sense. We are connecting the ancient traditions to these secret society groups that then started kind of creating a new society, kind of hiding a lot of their beliefs because it's hard to tell what they believe. I guess another term we could use for them is mystery schools. That's what a lot of people refer to them as, which is why they claim they stay in secret. So we'll just jump in here. I'm doing a lot of ums. So here's a Wikipedia of the list of presidents of the United States who were Freemasons. So we'll bring this up real quick so people could see it. Since the office was established in 1789, 45 persons have served as president of the United States. Of those, 14 of them, which is around 31%, are known to have been Freemasons, beginning with the nation's first president, George Washington, and most recently the 38th president, Gerald R. Ford. So we have a whole list here. You could find it on Wikipedia. It starts with George Washington, then it moves to James Monroe, then to Andrew Jackson, James K. Polk, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson, James A. Garfield, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William H. Taft, Warren G. Harding, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, and Gerald Ford. All of them were Freemasons. Now I want to make sure that we just they're considered Freemasons from Masonic lodges, right? I want to make sure to point that out because there's only 14 of them in this list, right? But as we keep seeing these kind of mystery schools kind of break off into different groups, right? Like they seem to constantly, like there were 3 offshots of the Knights Templar theoretically. And then the 3 started going into Freemasonry. There's this constant kind of umbrella terming of things, and then these little splinter cells and little splinter groups, which are basically the same thing, but just under different titles. So we also have some more input here from I Am Not You. He says the pillars are also depicted, one white, one black. The floor of Masonic buildings are classically alternating black and white marble tiles like a chessboard.
Yeah.
He also says the Masonic presidential influence has more recently been replaced by the Jesuit influence. Oh, man, you son of a bitch. Skull and Bones. Mm-hmm. These 2 organizations may be offshoots of one another, however. So the next one we were just about to go into is the Skull and Bones. And now I had to search.
Do you want to save that, or do you want to roll with it?
We could go into it very quickly. So we have the Skull and Bones. And right here's businessinsider.com. The name of the article is The 13 Most Powerful Members of Skull and Bones. So in 1832, Yale students, including future President William Howard Taft's father, founded one of America's most famous secret societies, the Skull and Bones. These are 13, now mind you, 13 of the most powerful members of the Skull and Bones. Let's see right here. Let's see what they have to say, actually, because this looks pretty bad.
So,
yeah,
real quick before you jump into that, there's actually a book that you can buy on Google's like bookstore, like an ebook, that talks about the ties of Giuseppe Zangara, the person who tried to assassinate FDR, and tying him to the Freemasons and how he was used by the Freemasons to try to shape modern history.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like they were shaping it pretty well on their own, huh? I mean...
Well, I mean, that gives you, if you think, if he's tied to the Freemasons, FDR was part of the Freemasons, they've tried to shape history as they went along, kind of gives you a little bit of a tie of how the Freemasons may have, maybe he had something to say that they didn't agree with and then turned against him in that sense.
Yeah. Well, there are tons of situations we could probably bring up in which stuff like that happened. So it says here, as far as the Skull and Bones, each year only 15 juniors are tapped or chosen for lifetime membership in the club. A windowless building on 64 High Street, the Tomb, serves at the club's headquarters. The roof is a landing pad for a private helicopter. According to Alexandria Robbins' book, Secrets of the Tomb, Skull and Bones, the Ivy League, and the Hidden Paths of Power. For that perk and others, Bonesmen must swear total allegiance to the club. New members reportedly divulge intimate personal details, including their full sexual histories, before they're inducted. They also agree to give part of their estates to the club, but in return they receive the promise of lifelong financial stability so they won't feel tempted to sell the club's secrets, Robbins writes. From among those business titans, politicians, and 3 U.S. presidents, we picked the honor roll. So there's 3 U.S. presidents in here. So here's William Howard Taft, which is the class of 1878. We have Walter Camp, the class of 1880, and he's known as the father of American football. With other classmates, developed the game from the Brits' version of rugby. He played in the first rugby game at Yale against Harvard in 1876. Camp created many of modern football's rules, such as the assessment of points and limiting the field team to 11 men per side. He brought organization and esteem to the game, serving on the rules committee until his death. So there's another guy. Here's Lyman Spitzer. That sounds very familiar. He's a noted astrophysicist. He dreamed up the idea behind the Hubble Space Telescope, first method to observe space uninhibited by Earth's atmosphere. We'll have more about the Hubble and NASA coming up. Potter Stewart, the son of a Midwestern congressman, Stewart became the editor of the Yale Law Review during his time at Yale. As a Supreme Court justice, Potter sat firmly in the middle of an ideological war on the bench. So, mind you, when we went through the Freemasonry list, that was only presidents, right? We didn't go into how many of them were congressmen. That list starts getting larger.
There's also Winston Churchill, who was a Freemason. Jesus, there's a lot of Freemasons. Benjamin Franklin, Jesse Jackson, John Wayne was a Freemason. Harry Houdini. So the list, Charles Lindbergh. The list just keeps on going and going and going.
Well, when you join an exclusive group like that, it's the same thing that this article's stating about the Skull and Bones, is that they can promise you that you'll financially be set for life. I mean, especially if most of what you're making, a lot of what you're making in your estates are going to be given to the group. They're pretty much guaranteeing. I mean, look at how much influence these guys have. These are fucking some pretty big people here. And Potter Stewart was a Supreme Court justice. And the son of a congressman. So right here, notably, he wrote a dissent in Griswold versus Connecticut in 1965, invalidating a state law that banned contraceptives. The opinion found that law was a violation of the right to marital privacy. His opinions in various cases also helped solidify Fourth Amendment protections. Stewart also became famous for this quote about hardcore pornography. I know it when I see it. You also have McGeorge Bundy. I've never heard of that one. Before becoming one of JFK's wise men, Bundy may have relied on his big brother to help him get into Skull and Bones. William Bundy, who graduated a class earlier, went on to serve as State Department liaison official, notably during the Bay of Pigs invasion. Odin, as fellow Bonesman called him, however, left his own mark on the world, though potentially not all positive. One of Kennedy's advisors, Bundy heavily impacted the evolution of the Vietnam War. After his death, fellow officials used his notes to express regret about how many policies enacted during the era. So we're talking to pretty big people. George Herbert Walker Bush, class of 1948. In case nobody knows who he was the director of the CIA as well as the president of the United States. Arguably, the CIA is more powerful than anybody who serves for the government directly. Right. So it says, before Bush became the second Bonesman to occupy the Oval Office, he was also a pilot in World War II and served as ambassador to Communist China, director of the CIA, and of course, vice president of Ronald Reagan. As president during the end of the Cold War, Bush supported space exploration. The American people have also criticized and exalted his involvement in the Gulf War, notably Operation Desert Storm. That's a big spread of things that this guy was directly part of. Yeah.
And affected.
At least in modern history, yes. This guy is quite hooked in. We have William F. Buckley Jr. I mean, I don't think we really have to dig too far. But I mean, these are some pretty big people. John F. Kerry. Former Secretary of State and Senator from Massachusetts. He came out of Yale. Frederick Wallace Smith. He founded FedEx. I mean, he serves as president, chairman, and CEO of the multi-billion-dollar company. Defying ideological borders, Smith was close friends with both Bush and Kerry during his days at Yale. What a coincidence. Then we have George W. Bush.
What a shock.
So he came out of the Skull and Bones. Just like his father did, he became president of the United States. Then we got Stephen A. Schwarzman. And again, we're really focusing on this, but I mean, these are big, big people. The Blackstone Group.
Yeah, I know about them.
Oh, man. He came to prominence under the future president's administration when his hedge fund, the Blackstone Group, went public in 2007. Forbes estimates his personal fortune at around $11.9 billion. We all know that number is bullshit. Forbes never gives an accurate number. He donated.
In my building, their headquarters.
What happened?
The Blackstone Group, their headquarters is in my building. He's in my building.
Their name's coming up quite a lot recently.
Yeah.
They're involved in a lot of stuff. So
Yes, they are.
He donated $150 million to Yale to form the Schwarzman Center on campus. Schwarzman was recently tapped by President Donald Trump to chair a strategic and policy forum, which consists of 17 high-powered executives. Oh, man. Stephen Munich. He came out of there. Current U.S. Secretary of Treasury. After moving on from Goldman, he started his own hedge funds. Reports have estimated his net worth anywhere from $300 to $500 million. He's almost worth as much as Nancy Pelosi. Dana Milbank. She's a journalist who covers politics. I don't know if she's one of the strongest ever. Where did that come from? Did she write the article? What the fuck?
They were just, at the end, they were like, fuck, we need one more person.
Yeah,
We
let's
already
just
came up
throw
with
this
the title.
person in.
Like,
Wait,
no,
they
we
needed a
already
woman.
said 13.
That's right. The article's written by Abby Jackson, so they needed a woman. So they just threw her in there.
She wrote the title of the article and said 13 people, and then she got 12, and she was like, fuck, I just need one more.
Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Dana Milbank is the dude to the right. Dana Milbank right with Ariana Huffington. All
It's
right.
past Lou's bedtime.
Oh yeah, yeah. The past few nights I've been passing out really, really early. So this is getting late for me. Although usually it's afternoon. So let's see.
So it's safe to say if you want to become a prominent member of society, you have to be either a Freemason or a Skull and Bones.
that's only two of the groups. We haven't gotten into the Rhodes Scholars yet. But
No, you're right. There's a bunch of different groups, but you
they
have to be in these exclusive groups.
it would seem that way, yes. I mean, they all share the same concepts, right? You're giving some of your estate to them. Upon being introduced to the group, you're kind of being compromised in some way, shape, or form. You have to be compromised in order to join. And then they're obviously heavily influential. I mean, that was a few of the most powerful people in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like pure.
You know, a few of them manipulated wars. You know, finances for billions and billions of dollars. So, yeah.
I mean, don't forget
Hugely.
one of them also was tied to space exploration
Mm-hmm.
and NASA, which we know there's plenty around NASA that can be looked into that isn't exactly right.
Oh man,
Sure.
what you're talking about? Like the guy who started it, Project
The guy who
Paperclip,
started
baby.
it, the moon landing.
Oh
Plenty of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. That's going to be another episode. We can't fully. But if
He
anyone,
said, "Let me take this screen down real quick."
if anyone does want to start doing some research on that, because I have a feeling it's coming up very soon. It's called Project Paperclip. It was pretty much the military operation in which we were taking over Germany, and we were taking the smartest, most intelligent people away from the chopping block, and we were incorporating them into our own researchers. Yeah. So if you're a big NASA fan, you really want to look at who started NASA. Who was gifted NASA? Sorry, instead of being beheaded for war crimes, he was kind of gifted another way out. But yeah, I mean, so I had a list here, not just of Masonic presidents. I had a list of other Freemasons. Let's see if I can find it really quickly.
Sorry, not
Well,
to change topic, but I had to explain to my dad who the founder of NASA was, and he was like in complete disbelief. And I'm like, seriously, you've watched all these shows, and you love NASA programs, and you don't know who founded NASA?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ben Franklin was a Freemason.
Yep.
yes.
He also put a lot of ideas in for what the U.S. dollar is supposed to look like, and it ended up with an all-seeing eye.
Yes, and that ties back obviously to Freemasonry because it's using ancient Egyptian, what would you call it? It's using their symbols, their symbolism, the idolatry, which is what they're accused of constantly. So here's
Have you heard what the Freemasons actually put out there that the all-seeing eye is supposed to be for? Or the Eye of Providence is the actual name?
no explain.
It's the all-seeing eye of God is a reminder that a Mason's thoughts and deeds are always observed by God, who is referred to in Masonry as the great architect of the universe.
Okay. And I am not. You just added not only an all-seeing eye, but a pyramid with a capstone, hence back to Egypt.
Right.
And we also have Kevin Reiser. What's going on, Kevin? Thanks for joining us. He said, imagine Jeff Epstein's skull and bones. I don't know what that means. Go a little more into detail there.
If he was a part of the group, you never know. He could have been a Freemason.
That's a tough one. I mean, Epstein's kind of been linked to intelligence agencies as well. I believe he's been
CIA.
linked to the Israeli intelligence. He obviously had links to British through Maxwell. So Maxwell's father supposedly was part of an intelligence agency as well. I mean, you would imagine when you're looking at the list that was involved with them, they were compromising only prominent figures, very, very prominent, powerful, going for royal family people. And I mean, they still won't even let us see the list. We're only seeing things that kind of leaked. We're not seeing everything they had. We're hearing only about one piece of property. We're not hearing about the other two. There's a lot more there. I mean, you're looking at flight logs, but for the amount of them that could have traveled on their own to go meet him somewhere, or could have met him at his ranch, met him in Manhattan, where he had the picture of the painting of Bill Clinton in a dress. Look, there's so much missing from that, outside of the fact that we never got to see the official logs just for the plane either.
Also, little side note, I like how the media completely skipped over the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, even after the ruling.
Of course, and it's sealed. So there's nothing we're gonna read from it. There's nothing we're gonna see from it. It just
well, there was a good podcast, so you could, if you lived in Brooklyn or anywhere close, you could attend as long as there was seating available. You could attend the trial, and there was a good podcast. I don't know if they have friends, a guy and girl, whatever. They every day they would release what they saw, like what they heard, and what happened at the trial. So, unfortunately, no one really knows about it. I could get the name of the podcast. I can't think of.
Yeah, send it over. I'll listen to it.
And we should definitely post it. Yeah, I'll get that the next time. Oh, I just want to also say that the obelisk, the Egyptian obelisk that's in Central Park, right behind the Metropolitan Museum, was shipped in by the Freemasons.
Of course. So. I mean, they have a nice little thing going on there.
Of that obelisk, I have it on my phone. Actually, I have a picture of it.
So I just want to throw in as well. Here's some more names. Some famous Masons you may recognize. You have Irving Berlin. You have Louis Armstrong. You have Ludwig von Beethoven. You have Harry Houdini. You have Mark Twain. You have Oscar Wilde. You have Norman Vincent Peale. You have Sir Alexander Fleming. You have Edwin E. Buzz Aldrin Jr. You have Winston Churchill, which I believe one of you guys mentioned already. You have John Jacob Astor. You have Edward, King of England. You have Christian Wren. You have Frederick the Great, King of Prussia. You have Henry Ford. You have Francis II, Holy Roman Emperor. Arnold Palmer. Here's the King of England. I mean, the list is just absolutely incredible. Peter the Great, the Emperor of Russia. John Wayne, as you guys mentioned. I mean, the list is so great. And here's the thing, too. It's the same thing as how we were talking about how the pagans got taken down by the culture shift and all of the other things that the Crusades were kind of putting in as institution. You have to also take a look at culturally. Like Harry Houdini is a full-blown household legendary name. Beethoven is one of the largest. Anytime somebody thinks of classical music, Beethoven. If they see a talented kid, they're like, oh, there's Beethoven. Like, these people are beyond influential. They're like cultural deities. Louis Armstrong. Think about who they think about with the moon landing. Buzz Aldrin. He's actually the one that kind of slips all the time and says that we went to Mars, which is even funnier because the amount that came out his mouth was incredible.
Yeah, he had a lot of interesting stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we should probably cover in a different podcast.
Oh, we have so much.
He said a lot of things that I think a lot of people were trying to hush him up about. So,
yeah.
Well, they tried to sell him off as crazy.
Yeah.
The Henry Ford one is kind of interesting because weird fact that is in my brain from reading on Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford was a well-known Mason before Ford Motor Company ever opened, like before he started making money, to the point that he commissioned a piece from the Freemasons. It was basically like an ornate plaque that had a beehive on it with the inscription "Nothing without labor," and that was literally mounted above the front doors of the first Ford Motor Company factory, and that's a Masonic symbol.
I wonder if we looked up Chevy whether they had the same symbolism. That's funny, but yeah, Ford Motor is it larger than Chevy? I mean, at this point, I know the stock is higher.
I mean, I would say they're probably about the same size, to be honest.
And
No, I would say Ford is bigger. The F-150 is probably the highest selling vehicle in the country.
for personal use, for
anything.
transportation, for goods.
And the meaning of the beehive to the Masons is it stands for industry and the need for Masons to keep the world buzzing along.
Wow. So, Kevin, in reference to your remark, I am not you on Twitch had just mentioned Mossad in reference to Epstein. And when we search Mossad really quickly, Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. It is one of the main entities in the Israeli intelligence community, along with Armin and I don't know. That's what comes up immediately on a Google search. So yes, he was hooked in with the Israeli intelligence, and obviously he was you know putting people on the chopping block, compromising them, putting them in positions where other people have power. Yeah. So now, so they obviously put their own imagery consistently into things that they built. Now, we had this big thing a few podcasts back. I don't know if you were watching at that time, Mundane, but we were talking about the owls on the churches. And
If I was watching, that's been too long, and it's been lost.
And I want to do a quick search about the owl, because there is an owl god.
Are we going back to Moloch?
Oh, well, where else are we going to go? You know what I mean? I'm going to do another quick search as well. The Freemason initiation rite.
So I tried looking up initiations constantly about the Freemasons, and it's always, I did find a video.
I would happen to have some paperwork on that I could possibly get pictures of and send over. On
Oh
the
boy.
Initiation, like the entire initiation, and there's like a whole paragraph of shit you got to memorize and what they have you do and what you got to fill out, stuff like that.
Now, is that the initial initiation or the initiation up to the top?
So that would be the initial initiation and then the initiation up to the top. My great grandfather was forgot what they call him. He was over a 36 level Mason, but he was also of the Masonic Lodge here in the area I live in. He was and I'm looking it up right now.
How do you know he was 36th?
So not only in the paperwork, but also on his headstone, he has a double eagle in the compass for the Masonic symbol, and that symbolizes being 36 level and above.
That's such a lie, because they only go 33.
Well, whatever the highest level rank is.
I think we know that they go up to 33, but who knows what is past that?
It's the Knights Templar. It's what's past that.
Sure. Right. So, by the way, the name of that podcast that was going over the Maxwell trial is TrueAnon. And yes, they made the name after QAnon, poking fun of it. So it's TrueAnon.
Oh, and what I was looking for, the words I was looking for earlier, my great grandfather was the Master Mason for the area Masonic Lodge.
Really?
Yes.
Did you say the Aryan?
No,
Not
for my
Aryan.
area.
Damn.
Like the Masonic Lodge that's closest to where I live. And then I also, either my great grandfather or my great great grandfather was the head of the Shriners for this area as well.
Now, what is the Shriners? The Children's Hospital?
So the easiest way to make you picture it in your mind is the guys with the little fezzes on that have like beads on them that ride around the little go-karts for parades.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
You know those people? No, never seen that. Maybe that's a Florida thing.
So no, well, funny. You know how they say don't get stuck at a Shriners convention. One time we were driving, I think we were driving to Florida, and there was a Shriners convention that took up like so many exits on I-95. We couldn't find a hotel room anywhere.
Yeah, so it says Shriners International, also commonly known as the Shriners, or formerly known as the Ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, is a Masonic society established in 1870 and is headquartered in Tampa, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you proud of this?
Not using it as like a proud moment. I'm using it as a learning moment. I mean, I'm proud of my grandfather and great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather. I mean, one of them was in Korea for the Korean War. One was in Vietnam. The one before that was in the military, but I don't know where he actually fought.
So now that you're actually opening up about it, because I remember before we started this episode, I had mentioned like talk about whatever it is that you're comfortable with. Oh, and I am not you also mentioned yes, the Shriners developed Shriners Hospital for Children. So we were kind of both. I was a little correct there, only halfway. But and he had also sent over a link that I'm trying to work onto this computer here so that I could show everybody. It actually has to do with the owl, and why a lot of the Freemasonry things had the owl on it. But I'm trying to get it here so that everybody could see it and I could read a few things off of it. But was it ever mentioned for you to go into potentially like go down and check things out?
So it wasn't really mentioned to me. My grandfather mentioned it to my father, but the biggest takeaway from it, and they did the same thing for the military when my father went into the military, was that the Freemasons were not the Freemasons that they grew up in. It had changed, and they were more of like a basically a bullshit political entity over anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought about doing it. He's thought about doing it since my grandfather passed away to kind of carry it on. But he never really went and looked into it until then.
Okay.
Because we still have my grandfather's Masonic Bible and Masonic bib and everything just in a box in my dad's office.
Okay. So let's see. I have this ready now. So we're gonna go over something very quickly, and it's even in the U.S. dollar and everything else. So this was sent in by our friend on Twitch. I am not you. He had sent it over, and it says the owl and Luciferianism. An owl can see in the dark. Occultists like to use the owl as one of their symbols because they can see things that the average person from the public cannot. Occult members are enlightened to the dark inner workings of secret societies. The Bohemian Club is a rich man's organization that holds a 2-week camp in Northern California every year at the end of July. This strange and secretive group, which have received very little press coverage, have a 40-foot owl as its central symbol. Each year, approximately 1,500 of America's most influential CEOs, government officials, financiers, industrialists, and media moguls gather to hear speeches, network, and share common agendas. They also perform druid-like ceremonies before a huge stone owl complete with robes, fire, incantations, and other rituals. Romans 1:22-23, note all scripture quotes are only from the trustworthy King James Bible, comes to mind. Professing themselves to be wise, they become fools and change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. So let's see right here.
They have a motto, which is "Weaving spiders come not here." If we're talking about Bohemian Grove. And also another little interesting fact about Bohemian Grove is the Manhattan Project meetings were held there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Bohemian Grove. I would have to look to see if I could find the footage from Alex Jones. That's what actually put the raving lunatic Alex Jones on the map, was that he actually infiltrated one and got footage. You know what? I'm going to use that term very, very sparingly. I don't know if he infiltrated, and a lot of people wonder whether he infiltrated or he was let in. But
Well, he said he was let in. So, but he said he was let in, but they didn't know who he was. And I guess they figured he was a member. His problem was he was like a raving lunatic in the place instead of just being calm about it.
yeah, but so like just like the top, right? That's been a major thing with secret societies, is that they do things right in front of you. That's been the whole like magic trick. Like, it's supposed to be right in front of you and you can't see it because you're not looking for it. You don't know it's there. But others that do know it's there do know, and then immediately they belong. One thing to them is that they need to have it out so that you can see it, you can see the truth. Now, whether anything's going to come of that or not is a total, like, it's like the legend of the vampire. I'm trying to make sense out of this because I wasn't really prepped for that one, but it's like the famous vampiric myth, right? It knocks on the door. If you don't let it in the house, it's harmless. You have to let it in. The second you let it in, it's over. And that's been an occult thing for a very long time. If you don't let it in, it doesn't come in. But if you do, it does. So a lot of people theorize that Alex Jones was a setup so that they can release it. And they chose that guy because he's so outrageous, most people wouldn't believe him. But you're watching the video, right? You don't need to listen to the narrator. That's the problem. People witness things and they let the audio and the visual kind of merge. So you get a narration of what you're seeing, and then that changes what you would have come to mind had you just watched the video. You understand what I'm saying? Almost like peaceful protests.
Sure.
You watch the video, they're standing in front of a burning skyscraper, and they say mostly peaceful. And everyone runs around and says mostly peaceful. If you had muted that and looked right behind them, you can easily discern that that is not peaceful. You can immediately make it out. So they released the information.
I really don't think they let Alex Jones in to expose it to a maniac. I really do think that he showed up and idiocy sunk into some of the members there, and they just let him in. Because who knows about that place other than members?
So I am not you also added Alex Jones is a disinformation agent. Now, I agree with that to a certain extent, and I don't agree with that with another, because a lot of what he has said has actually come to fruition. A scary amount of it has. And pretty much the things that you wish didn't happen is exactly what did. William Coulard also says, who the fuck would go to California in July? Well, it depends what area of California. California is the entire coast up.
I believe it's Northern California.
Yeah, this is Northern. So it gets, I don't know if it gets
maybe
as
I'm
hot
bullshitting,
as...
because I believe the Bohemian Club, which was before Bohemian Grove, was founded in San Francisco. So I think Bohemian Grove is not that far away. So maybe the weather's not that bad there. Who knows? And
I am not you also said there was no way in hell anyone at Bohemian Grove erroneously let him in. I don't know. But so right here it says, to help you lose more sleep tonight, take a look at what's hidden on every US $1 bill. That's right, an owl. And zoomed in, there's an owl sitting, perched, the same way it is on the churches, same way it is on a lot of the older designed buildings. There's a small owl just to the left of the one, which appears in the upper right-hand corner of the dollar bill. But what does the owl symbolize? The owl is a symbol of wisdom. Owls can see in the dark. They can see what we cannot see. Likewise, members of the Illuminati are privileged to information that is hidden from the general public. The owl is a nocturnal bird of prey with strong talons. The owl is associated with wisdom, books, occult knowledge, shamanism, and other spiritual matters. As mentioned, the owl is a bird of the night, as an association with the moon is also suggested. They have short tail feathers and are silent in flight, stealth-like. They seem curious about things but are happy to sit and wait until the time is right to obtain their goals. Catch or conquer their prey. The demon god Lilith is represented throughout history as an owl. A study of the demon goddess of Lilith will reveal the dark secrets behind the owl of Bohemian Grove. I mean, I don't know how much, further we want to go down. There's Aleister Crowley, which one of these days we'll start getting into the genealogical pool of even the U.S. presidents. Surprisingly, Aleister Crowley kind of creeps himself into that list. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, we're opening a door by getting into the whole Freemasonry thing.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole you can fall down for eons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, right, the next step.
I'm not sure what you're hinting at as the next step.
Well, I mean, because if you start looking this stuff up, you're going to start hearing about the Illuminati.
Yes.
So.
Yes, this only climbs. But I think this is a good prepper for people. Everyone's heard of Freemasons. Everybody. And the funniest part of it is they all know it's a secret society. What they do and how they do it, people like to choose what to believe and, what they feel is true and what they feel isn't true. And we're going to slowly kind of start breaking that stuff down because I think we may have gone a little quick, especially going to that website. I was a little worried about opening that up, but yeah, the owl has a lot of symbolism. This is all just going to grow because now Bohemian Grove we're talking about. I mean, we could start getting into the Bilderberg group.
I was just going to say.
What do you think of this, Mundane? You're getting quiet over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to look into and process. I have either forgotten the information or missed the episode where y'all talked about owls, so I'll have to go back and look at that, kind of catch up on.
It was kind of mentioned shortly. That was when the Camarilla Cafe was more like a heated debate. When we had Ron on here, and 90% of it was just arguments.
Yeah, we argued a lot.
Mm-hmm. A lot more than we do now.
Crickets.
Oh, yeah. You know what, though? You shouldn't have said that because now new listeners will think that means silence instead of the fact that he was always outside with a very hot microphone.
We literally heard a lot of crickets.
And just fucking crickets nonstop. It used to drive me obscenely angry. Fucking hear that all night. I love Ron. Well, we're gonna have him on at some point coming up. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, so he's gonna jump back in at some point. But yeah, there were tons of crickets. So I think Mundane, you're gonna have to get crickets coming through your microphone.
Oh, I mean, I can do that. That's not a problem.
So,
No, but go ahead. Sorry.
no, go for it.
I was just gonna say, they can't be fake crickets. We need real crickets. Like, you need a tank with crickets.
Just a tank of crickets.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where you guys are on everything. If anyone has any questions or any opinions on stuff going on or any knowledge of the inner workings of some of these groups, please feel free to chime in. I mean, the biggest thing that I think, we can really tear into what the Freemasons are connected with. I think going into what they're connected with, what the intention is, what they were aiming for, will start kind of bridging a gap for most people to start seeing what's happened in history due to what they've done. I'll be honest, until we hit that part on the Knights Templar, I had no clue they had something to do with the banking system. I had absolutely no clue.
I had
What
there
an
we go. There's some
asshole.
crickets.
I got
So
crickets too.
funny
man.
enough, I watched a show probably like 10, 12, 15 years ago on like the History Channel that talked about the Knights Templar and banking. So
I had no clue that they were, it seems like they were coming with a complete and total governmental system at once. Like they weren't just coming to devour the area or to take it over. They were coming to implement a system, a full, complete. We'll give you loans. We're gonna put this up. We're giving you religion. We're giving you influence. We're giving you culture.
and
Like
protection.
they came in with everything.
They were like a mafia.
Well, they had to get the blueprint from somewhere.
Yeah, I guess so.
Again, it's all a lot of
And
that
they-
always seems to be linked to the Vatican.
And their influence spread from England all the way down to Egypt, and from the Far East to Spain. So it was you know they were pretty influential. So and you think about it, the order really only lasted. They were strong for what, 200 years? That's not a long time to become that powerful.
Yeah, but it's obvious. It's blatantly obvious that they're connected to Freemasonry. They're all connected. It's all the same movement. It's all the same cultural movement. Obviously in the East, which is the Indian and Muslim world, largely, they've largely stayed the same. If you don't consider Jerusalem, they've largely maintained the same thing. The West and the movement of the West has been a consistent progression. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it seems as though they started bringing in that system and it just is continually actualizing itself. Whereas the other world kind of stayed where it was and without our intervention would have stayed within their own convention, But everything that we're experiencing here seems to have come from that movement, that initial movement, after all of the after the paganism. So here, just for shits and giggles, I brought up the Illuminati. And it says right here is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment era secret society founded on May 1st, 1776 in Bavaria, today part of Germany, which, that's funny, that other section, was it of the Knights Templar, was rooted in Germany? Or was it legitimately Freemasonry? I feel like we're going to have to rewind the episode.
I don't remember anything being rooted in Germany.
There was one that
than-
was, specifically. So it says the society's goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, which obscurantism and obscurantianism describe the practice of deliberately presenting information in an imprecise, abstruse manner designed to limit further inquiry and understanding. There are two historical and intellectual denotations of obscurantism. Man, religious influence over public life and abuses of state power. That's what they were there to oppose. The order of the day, they wrote in their general statuses, is to put an end to the machinizations of the purveyors of injustice, to control them without dominating them. The Illuminati, along with Freemasonry and other secret societies, were outlawed through edict by Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria, with the encouragement of the Catholic Church in 1784, 1785, 1787, and 1790. I guess they took 1789 and I guess they took that year off. During
vacation.
subsequent years, what was that?
Vacation.
Mm-hmm. During subsequent years, the group was generally vilified by conservative and religious critics who claimed that the Illuminati continued underground and were responsible for the French Revolution. So there's the funny thing right there, is to put an end to the machinations of the purveyors of injustice to control them without dominating them. So that pretty much makes them string pullers. Right? They're not taking a throne. They're not taking a place over. They're controlling them without dominating them. Right? So that would pretty much be the same thing as exactly what we were talking about somebody like Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Compromising someone so you control them.
Right.
So you get them to do what you want them to do, but not necessarily take over and then sit in the throne like a king. Instead, you're in the dark and you're kind of pulling strings and creating different situations.
Did you mention what their mission statement was?
That was it. The order of the day.
Okay.
Why? What did you get?
I found something that was, I don't know, it says, okay, so the mission statement, by the mutual assistance of its members to attain the highest possible degree of morality and virtue, and to lay the foundations for the reformation of the world by the association of good men to oppose the progress of moral evil.
Man, those sounds, those sleigh bells, whatever you're doing back there, is driving me a little nuts. No, he knows who I'm talking to.
What? I'm not doing
It's making
anything.
all those weird sounds.
Literally
I heard
doing
like
nothing.
really light sleigh bells, and it was throwing me off the entire time.
No, I think you're just hearing things now because I'm literally doing nothing.
So the mission statement that you had brought up sounds a little more like so the Illuminati is directly, like if you look on the top of the Wikipedia, it says this article is about the secret society. For the conspiracy theory, see New World Order conspiracy theory. For other uses, see Illuminati. So that ties in directly with the New World Order, what you just read.
Yeah, I don't know where I got it from. This I had pulled this probably a year ago. So,
You hear that?
yeah. No.
Oh man, it's driving me nuts.
Lou, I think you're hearing things.
Yeah, I'm
I
like.
think the
90%
Illuminati
sure you're hearing
is coming after you.
First you hear sleigh bells. Next thing you know, your strings are being pulled.
Yeah, where are you hearing sleigh bells?
It's really low, and it's in the back. I hear it. I know what he's doing. These organizations have
Literally
often
not doing anything.
These organizations have often been alleged to conspire to control world affairs by masterminding events and planting agents in government and corporations in order to gain political power and influence and to establish a new world order. And there is the Inuit Conceptus. So that is the all-seeing eye that's on the dollar bill and everything else, which we've already established has a gigantic connection to Freemasonry. And central to some of the more widely known and elaborate conspiracy theories, the Illuminati has been depicted as lurking in the shadows and pulling the strings and levers of power in dozens of novels, films, television shows, comics, video games, and music videos. So let me ask you a question. Even after what we've just covered, right? So they're telling you the Illuminati is connected to these secret societies and these smaller groups and organizations. Then it's claiming that it's masterminding events and planting agents in governments and corporations to gain political power. Would this really be considered a conspiracy theory at this point? Like, let's say that the Illuminati, under the title Illuminati, does not exist. Instead, it's Freemasonry or it's Skull and Bones. Wouldn't this theory, right in and of itself, not any longer be a conspiracy theory?
Still conspiracy theory because CNN hasn't broadcasted it yet.
See, and thank you, I Am Not You, on Twitch. Thank you for verifying that you can hear that ridiculous sound going on in the background, that Mundane just keeps droning on and on. That is
I
throwing
literally
me
keep
off.
my hands up the whole time. I swear, I'm not even
I
touching
have not
anything.
heard it once.
So thank you guys for the likes. I just saw a whole bunch of likes just fly up on Facebook. So yeah, I mean, is it really a conspiracy theory? What would you guys consider it?
Well, I guess today it would still be hard to prove that that's an actual thing. There's no direct sources, right? There's no big billboards that say, "Hey, the Illuminati is here." So no, I because I look into it and you look into it, and this is something that has become a very common topic in discussions. No, we wouldn't look at this as conspiracy theory because we feel it's fact. But for the everyday person that doesn't look into this, when they hear stuff like this, they're like, "Oh, these people are fucking cracked." They don't know what they're talking about. They're just rambling on about some bullshit. They need to get a hobby other than making up stories. So, to most people, this would be a conspiracy theory.
What do you think of Mundane?
I think to most people, like he said, that aren't gonna look into it, it would show up as a conspiracy theory. Even if you tried to explain it to them, there wouldn't be enough. Wait, okay. There wouldn't be enough of like a background information for them to really try to believe in it. Just because you can tie things together as much as you want, but because they've been conditioned to think otherwise, they're gonna think it's fucking bullshit anyways.
Yeah, I mean, here's the funny thing. We're using all Wikipedia and just links that come up immediately. Even Google admits these people's associations to things. Like, we're not digging very deep. To anyone listening, we're literally starting with just a Google search. And if you watch the live shows, we're literally just opening tabs and Googling, and immediately this stuff is coming up. This is very available, widely available information. Some of the other things we were talking about are probably going to take us. We're going to need to dig a little further. As far as Bohemian Grove is concerned, we're not going to have to dig that much further, but we'll have to go a little further. And I think there was only one other thing that, Chris, you mentioned you tried to look up and you really couldn't find it.
The initiations, or
yes.
okay.
And obviously any association is going to try and block that type of stuff. I mean, even stupid, see, that's the thing too, like the frat houses and stuff like that. I feel like colleges like prep you for it.
I found a video. I don't know how credible the video is. The quality is potato, and
Is it a Skull and Bones initiation?
no, it's supposedly a Freemasons initiation, and I think it takes place, Greece or one of those neighboring countries.
You could send it over. We could take a look.
All right, let me find it again.
Was it a YouTube video? Are we going to get a copyright strike like we did with the last episode?
It is a YouTube video.
All right, send it over. So I'm going to precursor this with we are not monetized, so we do not make money off of this. Who knows if we ever will, but in the case of, we are using this for educational purposes. I'm going to have to put it in the description just to as a fail safe. But yeah, send it over. I'll bring it up. That's almost creepy.
What?
The sounds.
I don't know what you're hearing.
Oh, it's there.
There's literally nothing.
I feel like there's a conspiracy theory going on in this conspiracy theory.
No, it's
there you
not
go.
that much of one. It's already been caught. It's already been identified.
This
I literally don't even have my Zoom
All right.
on the loop.
I
back
know
for
that
my
I'm
mixer
half
anymore.
deaf, but like I don't hear shit.
I don't even have loopback set up anymore. I turned it right back off after the cricket noises, so if
She
I
takes a
accidentally click on
picture.
some weird ass video, it doesn't fucking pop up.
Okay, so let me bring this
I don't
up
know
real
if you're
quick.
hearing like a hiss. My radiator is on, and that's going.
No, it's a higher end. It's like it's.
I mean, about every 10 to 15 minutes, that AC unit in the wall right behind me kicks on to check the temperature, see if it needs to turn on.
All right, let's get to she takes a picture, and in that picture is this ET. So we're gonna look at this real quick. This is a thing for Gaia.
Did you get my message, Lou?
Yeah, that's what we're watching. Okay, so let's take a look at this. It's 8 minutes long.
Gerçekten siz misiniz? Sayın Aykut Erensoy, mason olabilmek için size verilen başvuru...
Wait, did you send this timestamped or should I pull back?
Oh no, you could pull it back. It's really kind of boring most of the way through.
What language was that?
I don't know. Like I said, it's either Greece or Hungary or...
1997 yılı Türkiye masonları açısından
Turkey.
çok önemli
There
bir
you
yıl
go.
olmuştu. İlk defa mason mabetlerinde gizli çekimler gerçekleştirilmiş ve bu görüntüler Kanal 7 televizyonunda günlerce yayınlanmıştı. İki ayrı locada çekilmiş olan gizli kamera görüntüleri hem Türk halkını hem de yüksek derecelere ulaşmamış masonları şoke etti. 1738 yılında İstanbul'da kurulan ilk locadan bu yana gizliliğini koruyarak gelen masonların görüntülerinin deşifre edilmesi ve masonluğun gerçek yüzünün gözler önüne serilmesi günlerce konuşuldu.
Well, the music's pretty creepy.
Adayları tanıdınız.
Serdar Büyüküstün, mesleği elektrik mühendisi. Aykut Erensoy, mesleği elektrik mühendisi. Kenan Ali Akman, mesleği serbest ticaret.
Adayların kimlikleri anlaşıldı. Onları içeri aldınız.
So basically, they lead these people through.
Yeah, they're blindfolded so they can't see where they are.
Yeah.
Sayın baylar, her şeyden önce bize söz vermenizi istiyoruz.
You can skip through a little bit. It's just
bizim düşünce
some
odası dediğimiz
bullshit.
o karanlık bölgeye girdiğiniz andan başlayarak şu ana kadar görüp
The
işittiklerinizi
contemplation
ve
room.
bundan böyle burada işiteceklerinizi, gözleriniz açıldıktan sonra da göreceklerinizi hiç kimseye söylemeyeceğinize namusunuz ve onurunuz üzerine söz
I'll
They
put
talk
this-
about opening up to like coming from the dark into the light, and
Sayın
like a
Aykut
new
Erensoy.
spiritual
Evet, söz verin.
beginning.
Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün,
Söz verin.
Sayın Kenan Ali Akman,
Evet, söz verin.
soruşturucu kardeşim adayları oturtunuz. Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz?
Metal bir parça. Kılıç.
Sayın Aykut Erensoy, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz?
Kılıca benziyor.
Kılıcın göğüslerinize dayandırılması, verdiğiniz sözde durmazsanız yaşamınız boyunca pişmanlık duyacağınızı ve acı çekeceğinizi bildirir. Herhangi bir yanlış anlamaya yer kalmaması için şunu da öğrenmek isteriz. Aramıza girmek isteyen kişi gerçekten siz misiniz? Sayın Aykut Erensoy, mason olabilmek için size verilen başvuru formunu hiçbir etki, baskı altında olmaksızın salt kendi istem ve buyrultunuzla siz mi doldurup imzaladınız?
Evet.
So I just placed the
birinci usulü
links.
yapmalarını sağlayınız.
Oh, and you see the checkerboard floor. Sorry.
Oh, so I am not you. He said he saw Stephen Greer's face on the video. No, that was an advertisement for Gaia as I brought it up. That was a YouTube placed advertisement.
Kim bunlar? Gerçek ışığı arayan adam. Beyler, az önce okunan
So now I don't see anything evil yet.
So we're coming up to it. There's something that happens in the middle of this thing that's supposed to be like a goat sacrifice.
Is it a live goat?
Supposedly they kill the goat and then they drink the blood, but you can't. To me, you really can't see anything. Again, the quality of this thing is potato, so.
Ve mason hocasından başka bir yerde açıklamayacak.
Ona söylenilecek ve gösterilecek mason gizemlerini bir masondan başkasına ve mason hocasından başka bir yerde açıklamayacağım.
Masonların amaçları doğrultusunda çalışacağım.
Masonların
Okay. I guess we're getting hit with another advertisement. No?
doğrultusunda çalışacağım.
Özgür Masonlar Büyük Hocası'nın ilkelerine bağlı kalacağım.
Özgür masonlar büyük locasının ilkelerine bağlı kalacağım.
Üyesi olacağım hocanın toplantılarına düzenli olarak katılacağım.
Üyesi olacağım locanın toplantılarına düzenli olarak katılacağım.
Birinci Nazır kardeşim, adaylar için ne istiyorsun?
Bilimsel gerçeğin ışığını saygıdeğer üstad.
Doğruyu ve bütün sütunları süsleyen kardeşlerim, adaylar için ne istiyorsun?
Bilimsel gerçeğin ışığını saygıdeğer üstad.
Çekicinin 3. vuruşunda bilimsel gerçeğin ışığı verilsin. Uçları size çevrilmiş bulunan kılıçlar bundan sonra yaşamınız saldırıya uğrarsa masonların sizi savunacaklarını sindirin.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the goat thing. Good luck seeing anything.
Also, like a complete
Bu şok
change of
görüntülerin
scenery.
hemen ardından yayınlanan diğer
Yeah.
çekimlerde ise
Well, it looks like the same floor that was in the other video. Maybe they moved the chairs out of the way and shut the lights.
yalnızca 33. dereceden masonların katılabildiği şeytana tapma ayini icra edilmekteydi. Ayini yöneten büyük üstad, locanın ortasında kesilen bir keçinin kanını içiyor ve İbranice bazı dualar okuyarak şeytana tapma ayinini sonuçlandırıyor.
And speaking in Hebrew.
Very interesting.
Very dramatic music.
I'll be honest, I listened to this on mute because I had to read it anyway, so.
I mean, can we see the goat? I can't really make it
Supposedly
out.
it's in the middle there. It's just. Good luck. I think it just cuts out.
İstanbul'da bir mason locasında kaydedilmiş
Yeah.
diğer bir görüntüde ise masonlar tarafından sürekli olarak
Like I said, this
inkar
is
edilen
this is the best thing I
Masonic
found,
sistem.
and this is really like,
Now, this is footage from a Masonic wedding? What would that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the same place. But whatever.
Yeah, I'll skip ahead on this. Like a lot of this footage, I don't know what I'm supposed to be seeing.
There's that, and I wonder, what the whole footage really was, because there had to be a lot more to that. So, if maybe one day we can find the whole thing, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it was hard to make anything out, really.
Right.
It was.
That's why I
So-
said the quality was potato. It wasn't that good of a video. But
It also says in the beginning the secret video is recorded in 2 different lodges.
it
So
does
that
say
might be
that.
the change of scenery.
Or the wedding was a different lodge. Which I don't know why showing a wedding in a Masonic lodge would be I mean, we rented stuff at the Knights of Columbus, right? I mean, that was nothing in comparison to something that's Freemason, but small little splinter cells so that they could say, "Hey, look, it's dads that go there for beer in the weekdays and
Right.
go there to cry on the weekends. We don't do anything weird." Which even the Knights of Columbus was questionable, to be honest, but whatever. It is what it is. So and it says, I am not you said this is probably footage from one of those rip-off Turkish horror movies. And that could have been a lot of things. Who knows?
Sure.
But
Anything's possible.
But yeah, with that, I mean, is there anything you guys have to add to all of this at this exact moment, or any opinions on such?
For me, no, not really. I would just say keep on searching. You know, feel free to look at those interwebs and get lost in that rabbit hole.
It's a big
'Cause
rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. I know, doing my own research for tonight. I just kept on going down one rabbit hole to another rabbit hole to another, and you have to. I had to go back and then be like, I was trying to focus on this, but you would always fall down another rabbit hole. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. What are you thinking, Mundane?
It's definitely really interesting. One of the things I did look up is like Masonic lodges in Turkey and how they're viewed. They were even banned for like a 20-year period in the late 70s to 80s.
But then they were allowed back, obviously.
Yeah, they have slowly grown back since. And then I was looking at some of the other stuff, like I sent over in the group chat the Masonic oath, what you're actually supposed to read off during your initiation. And that's memorized. It's not the call and response like they were doing in the video where they would just repeat what he was saying.
Right.
Also some history into the Masons as far as everybody knows or is concerned. Obviously there can be stuff in the background that nobody knows about. Robes are never used in the Masons. To cover your face is to hide from your work. It shows that you don't take pride in your work, and then you're no longer part of the Masons. So the robed individuals in the video are kind of weird because Masons wear aprons.
Right.
That robed part, I think when they were supposed to be sacrificing that goat, like they were saying that something about them only being like level 33 or higher Masons, and that was supposed to be like almost like a satanic thing. So again, it's hard to believe anything about that video is real, but
But who knows?
It's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows exactly?
Yeah. So I think it's pretty safe to say, like, we're gonna dig a little deeper into this. I just wanted to establish, how set into modern culture they are. They came all the way from the Crusades. Arguably, if there's like a few years in the middle that it looks like they went into a little bit of a hiding or they took a little of a hiatus, it's pretty obvious that they set up the modern institutions that we're in now. And not only that, it's pretty obvious that they've maintained what they've put in place. All of those U.S. presidents moving all the way up the line were part of it. I have to find a more comprehensive list as well, because obviously there was some really big people. I know for a fact there were more people that were congressmen, that just held different offices in government that weren't them. And, I just hope that a lot of people, when they listen to this, they take away at least the realization that it exists. It's not a boogeyman. Now, whether it's a boogeyman or not, we'll dig further into. But, it's there, whether people want to admit that or not. There has been an organization, and the organization has been running most of everything as far as the United States is concerned, and probably England for the last several hundred years. Am I wrong or right in that assessment? Or do I seem accurate?
Right. No, that sounds perfectly on par.
I mean, this is accepted information that's easily found on Wikipedia, easily found on Google. These people's families don't seem to be debating a lot of this information. Now, again, whether they're drinking goat's blood or whether they're doing softball games and drinking Pilsner beers during the week, that still, I guess, is up for debate. It would seem as though it's kind of not, the more you kind of dig in, which we're going to do. But on the surface of it, it's pretty obvious that they have a gigantic influence, gigantic control, gigantic power from numerous different angles. And I feel like, we've done a pretty decent job of that, laying that out. So
I think so.
before we close it out, you guys have anything to add?
Other than have a good night? No, I'm good.
That's it? You were just about to say something, and I realized I cut you off at the last second.
Nah, I already forgot what it was.
It must have been really important.
It was hugely.
Cricket Man, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. Other than I wasn't playing random ass fucking sounds half the show like you were trying to say I was.
Oh, man. Are you going to dig a little further into that, into those Freemasonry things?
Yeah, I'll dig a little further into it.
Yeah, so I would imagine with that, next week is probably going to be Paganism Part 9. And
Well, wait. Are we gonna say episode 15 or 14, or are we gonna keep it at 13?
so this is episode 14. This is
Okay.
episode 14. I'm a little rusty, like I said. It's our first time back since the holidays. We haven't even done this once since. We took a few weeks off. Now we're back. Restream was titled as 13. And I didn't think, I sat down, I got comfortable, I got you guys on the call. A lot of the stuff was hooked up from the second me and you got off the phone earlier in the afternoon. So like I immediately put the camera in, I put the stream deck in, like I had it all ready. And then I think I came up here like 5 minutes before I sent you guys the link. So I was like, all right, tonight's going to be an easy night. We're just going to flow into it. And then suddenly when we started going and I started loading up these pages on my laptop, I realized I was like, wait, this isn't episode 13 because it was still set in Restream. So next week I'll have to jump into Restream. And next week I'll label it 14 when it's actually 15. You know how
Or
it
you
goes.
could just go back tonight and fix where it says 13.
I could attempt to do that, yes.
You could, and next week label it as 15.
Let's get it right, right?
Just get it right.
We could just get it right. But yes, and
We learned 13 that much. We did it twice.
that's right.
That's right.
And then we're going to do
Look-
14 once and 15 once.
Just look to the 43rd principle of Euclid and get your shit together.
That's right. I'm going to stare at the symbol and things will just fall into place. That's how this works.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with that, guys, it looks like we're going to be doing Mondays, correct?
Mondays work for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So for everyone watching, for everyone following, for everyone listening, we will likely be back next Monday. I like that smug look you made, Chris, when I said that. We'll likely be here. No, but from now on, we're going to be doing Mondays. So it'll be a little earlier for everybody. It'll be a little easier. It could start out your week of paranoia. And yeah, thank you for joining us. And I hope you have a great week.
Good night, guys.
Good night.